The Valorian Empire had controlled the galaxy for 3,000 years. Their ships numbered in the hundreds of thousands. Their weapons could destroy entire planets. Every species they met either bowed down or got destroyed. That was how things worked in the galaxy. That was how it had always been. When the Valorians found humanity at the edge of the Orion Arm, they expected the same thing to happen. The humans would see their massive warships and powerful weapons. They would understand they had no chance. They would either surrender peacefully or fight and lose. Either way, the result would be the same. But humanity did something different. Something the Valorians had never seen before in 3,000 years of conquest. The humans sent them an invitation to dinner. Ambassador Linda Morrison stood in the white diplomatic room on the human ship called Horizon's Edge. She looked over her notes one more time. She wore a simple blue suit. Her gray hair was pulled back neatly. She looked calm, but her mind was working fast. Her assistant Jake Sullivan stood next to her. He was young, maybe 30 years old. He held a tablet in his hands and kept checking it nervously. His hands shook a little. "They have destroyed whole civilizations," Jake said quietly. "They destroyed planets because those people made them wait too long." Linda smiled. It was the same smile she had used many times on Earth. She had used it with angry business leaders. She had used it with hostile negotiators who wanted to fight. That smile had won her many victories. "That is good," Linda said. "We are not making them wait. We are giving them time to think. Time to wonder about us. Time to get curious." Jake looked at her like she was crazy, but he trusted her. She had never been wrong before. The Valorian delegation arrived 17 minutes late. Linda knew this was on purpose. In their culture, being late was an insult. It showed they thought they were more important. It was supposed to make the other side feel small and weak. High Commander Zerthax walked into the room first. He was huge, almost 8 feet tall. His skin was covered in dark green scales that reflected the light. Behind him came 12 warriors. Each one carried weapons. Each one looked like they could kill everyone in the room without breaking a sweat. The room suddenly felt smaller. The air felt heavier. The Valorian warriors spread out, taking control of the space. This was another tactic. Make the other side feel trapped. Make them feel surrounded. Linda walked forward. She smiled and held out her hand. "High Commander," she said warmly. "Welcome to our ship. We have prepared food from our world. We hope you will enjoy it." Zerthax stared at her hand. He did not move. In Valorian culture, touching meant only 2 things. Either you were going to fight, or you were going to mate. This human gesture made no sense to him. His warriors shifted, hands moving toward weapons. They thought maybe this was an attack. Maybe this small human female was challenging their commander. "You understand something," Zerthax said. His voice was deep and rough. A translator on his chest changed his words to English. "The Valorian Empire can destroy your planet. We can turn your homeworld into dust. We can do this in less than 1 week." Linda lowered her hand naturally. She did not look scared. She did not look angry. She just looked interested. "Yes," Linda said. "We know you can do that. We studied your empire. We know what you are capable of. We also know something else that is very interesting." "And what is that?" Zerthax asked. His eyes narrowed. "You have not destroyed us," Linda said simply. "Your ships arrived in our system 3 weeks ago. You had many chances to attack, but you did not. That tells us something important about you. For the first time in 200 years of military service," Zerthax felt confused. Humans were supposed to be afraid. They were supposed to beg or threaten. They were not supposed to analyze him. "Perhaps we are simply deciding the best way to conquer you," Zerthax said. "Perhaps," Linda agreed. "Or perhaps you are curious about us, just like we are curious about you. That is why we invited you to dinner. Curious people should talk. Curious people should share food. That is how we do things." One of the Valorian warriors made a sound. It might have been a laugh. Zerthax turned. and glared at him. The warrior went silent immediately. "We do not share food with species we plan to conquer," Zerthax said. "Then it is good that we are not conquered yet," Linda replied. "Please, sit. The food is getting cold. We can talk about conquest later if you want, but first, let us eat. Let us learn about each other." Jake stood frozen. He could not believe what he was seeing. The ambassador was treating these deadly alien warriors like dinner guests, like friends who had just arrived for a party. Zerthax looked at his warriors. They looked back at him. None of them knew what to do. This had never happened before. Finally, Zerthax sat down. His warriors remained standing, but he sat. It was a small victory, but Linda knew it was important. He was curious now. Curiosity was the first step. The meal was simple: roasted chicken, vegetables, bread, and water. Nothing fancy. Nothing that would seem like they were trying too hard. "This is from Earth?" Zerthax asked, looking at the chicken. "Yes," Linda said. "This is how we eat at home. Simple food. Good food. We believe that when you share a meal with someone, you should share honestly. No tricks. No games." Zerthax ate slowly. The food was different from Valorian cuisine, but not bad. While he ate, Linda talked. She asked him questions, not about military strength, not about weapons. She asked about Valorian culture. She asked about their history. She asked about their homeworld. At first, Zerthax answered carefully. Short answers, giving nothing away. But Linda kept asking. She seemed genuinely interested. She remembered everything he said. She asked follow-up questions that showed she was really listening. Jake watched in amazement. The High Commander was talking. Actually talking. Telling stories about his childhood on the Valorian homeworld. Describing the red deserts and the crystal mountains. Explaining how young Valorians learned to hunt. An hour passed. Then 2 hours. The warriors began to relax a little. They stopped touching their weapons every few seconds. "Your empire has conquered many species," Linda said. 417, according to our research. "But we noticed something interesting. You do not stay and rule them directly. You defeat them, you help them build new governments, and then you leave. Most of them join your empire voluntarily within a generation. Why is that?" Zerthax was quiet for a long moment. "You have studied us well." "We try," Linda said. "We believe that understanding someone is the first step to working with them. We want to understand you. We want to understand you." "Why?" Zerthax asked. "You are about to become part of our empire, one way or another. Why does it matter if you understand us?" Linda smiled again. "Because there are many ways to become part of something. Some ways involve force. Some ways involve choice. We prefer choice. We think you might prefer it too, even if you do not realize it yet." Zerthax stood up. His warriors immediately became alert again, but he was not angry. He looked thoughtful. "You are a strange species," he said. "We will talk again tomorrow. Same time." "We look forward to it," Linda said. After the Valorians left, Jake sat down heavily. His legs felt weak. "What just happened?" he asked. Linda gathered her notes. "We made first contact properly," she said. "Not with weapons. Not with threats. With curiosity and food. Now they will think about us tonight. They will wonder what we are planning. They will want to know more." "Is that good?" Jake asked. "That is very good," Linda said. "Curiosity is how you turn strangers into friends. And friends are much better than enemies." Jake looked at the empty plates on the table. "You really think we can make friends with them? They have destroyed civilizations." The talks moved to a new location after 2 weeks. Humanity had built a space station called Unity Point. It floated in neutral space, exactly halfway between Earth and the nearest Valorian outpost. The station was huge, gleaming white and silver in the starlight. Valorian intelligence officers studied every part of Unity Point. They scanned for weapons. They looked for hidden defenses. They searched for shields and traps. They wanted to know what advantage the humans were hiding. What they found confused them completely. Conference rooms. Hundreds of conference rooms. Kitchens with food from dozens of different worlds. Recreation areas with games and entertainment. Gardens with plants and trees from Earth. Medical facilities. Libraries. Living quarters. There were no weapons. No missile batteries. No shield generators. Nothing. This makes no sense, Admiral Korth said to High Commander Zerthax. This station cannot defend itself. One small attack ship could destroy it in minutes. Why would they build something so weak? Korth was old, even by Valorian standards. He had lived for 300 years. He had fought in 100 battles. He had never seen anything like this. Peter Clark, one of the human negotiators, was walking past when he heard the Admiral. Peter was tall and thin, with dark hair going gray at the sides. He wore simple clothes, just pants and a shirt, nothing fancy. Admiral Korth, Peter said in perfect Valorian language. You are absolutely right. This station would die very quickly in a fight. That is exactly the point. Korth's hand went to his weapon immediately. His eyes went wide. You speak our language? Yes, Peter said, still speaking Valorian. 17 of our diplomatic team learned Valorian in the past 3 months. We thought it would be respectful. We believe that listening to someone in their own language shows that you care about them. Korth stared at him. In 300 years, he had never met an alien who learned Valorian. Most species the Empire conquered never bothered. They just used translators. Walk with me, Peter asked, gesturing toward the observation deck. Korth should have said no. He should have walked away. But curiosity won. He followed the human. They walked in silence for a moment. The observation deck had huge windows looking out into space. Earth was visible far in the distance. A blue and green ball of light. Your empire has conquered 417 species, Peter said. He was still speaking Valorian, and he spoke it well. We read all the history records that you made public. We studied every conquest, every battle, every victory. And you think this will help you? Korth asked. You think knowing how we fight will let you win? Peter shook his head. No. We read the histories. But the battles were not the interesting part. What happened after the battles was much more interesting. Korth said nothing. He waited. You do not occupy the worlds you conquer, Peter continued. You do not enslave the people. You defeat them. Yes. But then you help them build new governments. You give them technology. You trade with them. You protect them, and then you leave. Within a generation, most of them ask to join your empire. They choose to join. So, Korth said, that is how we do things. That is not how conquerors normally do things, Peter said. Most conquerors take everything. They steal resources. They enslave people. They rule through fear. But you do not do that. Why? Crossa. 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 Korth was quiet for a long moment. No one had ever asked him this question before. Because fear does not last, Korth finally said. Fear works until someone scarier comes along. But loyalty, real loyalty, that lasts forever. Peter smiled. Exactly. You understand something that most conquerors never learn. You understand that a strong empire is not built on fear. It is built on consent, on people choosing to be part of something good. Korth looked at the human carefully. You learned an old Valorian saying, did you not? I heard it in how you spoke, Peter nodded. The strongest fortress is the one people choose to defend. That saying is from before your empire became a military power. From when you were just one species trying to survive. We found it in your ancient texts. How far back did you dig into our history? Korth asked. All the way to the beginning, Peter said. We are very thorough listeners, Admiral. We wanted to understand not just what you do, but why you do it. Korth felt something he had not felt in a very long time. Respect. These humans had done their homework. They had studied harder than any species he had ever met. You think you can join our empire? Korth asked. You think we will accept you as partners, instead of subjects? We think you need us, Peter said simply. Your empire is strong. Your military is powerful. But you struggle with some things. Rebellions. Cultural conflicts. Species that join your empire but never really accept it. You know how to defeat enemies, but you are still learning how to make enemies into friends. And you can do this? Korth asked. Make enemies into friends? Azee? Peter smiled. It is what we are best at. 3 months passed. The negotiations continued. But something strange was happening. Something the Valorian High Council noticed with growing alarm. Human diplomats were spreading through the Valorian delegation. They were learning languages. Not just Valorian, but the languages of all the different species that served in the Empire. The Tellurians, the Kryn, the Pathex, all 17 species that made up the Empire's diplomatic corps. Ambassador Linda Morrison attended a hatching day ceremony for Admiral Korth's youngest child. In Valorian culture, hatching day was sacred. Only family attended, but Korth had invited her, and she had come. She brought a gift. A warming stone from Earth that kept eggs at the perfect temperature. It was so perfect, so culturally appropriate, that Korth's mate had cried. No outsider had ever understood their traditions so well. A young human named Amy Chen spent weeks with the Tellurian delegates. The Tellurians were a spiritual people. They meditated every morning at dawn. Amy asked if she could join them. At first, they said no. Meditation was private, sacred, but Amy asked again and again. Always polite, always respectful. Finally, they agreed to let her try. Amy meditated with them every morning for 6 weeks. She learned their breathing techniques. She learned their prayers. She achieved what they called the third clarity, a level of meditation that very few outsiders ever reached. After that, the Tellurians stopped thinking of her as an outsider. They started thinking of her as a friend. And friends do not negotiate against each other. Friends work together. The Valorian High Council met in emergency session. The reports from their diplomatic teams were disturbing. They are not negotiating, Counselor Vrex said angrily. He was old and traditional. He did not like change. They are studying us. They are getting inside our heads. It is worse than that, Zerthak said. They are making friends with our people. They are turning our own delegates against us. Vrex pulled up a recording on the holographic display. It showed a human named Christopher Hayes arguing with a Valorian trade minister named Kelth. But they were not arguing about trade or politics. They were arguing about military history. Kelth had written a book about a battle from 800 years ago. It was his life's work. Christopher had read the entire book. He had studied it carefully. Now he was arguing with Kelth about tactics and strategy. They argued for 3 hours. They got loud. They disagreed strongly, but neither one got angry. At the end, they went to dinner together. Now they met twice a week to discuss historical battles and military theory. This is the problem, Zerthak said. They are not turning our people with tricks or lies. They are making our people turn themselves. They study what we care about. They learn what matters to us. And then they show genuine interest. Real respect. It is manipulation, Vrex insisted. Is it? Zerthax asked. Manipulation means lying. Means pretending. But they are not pretending. Christopher Hayes really did read Kelth's book. All 800 pages. He really does find it interesting. Amy Chen really did learn Tellurian meditation. Linda Morrison really does understand our culture. They are not faking interest. They are genuinely curious about us. Why? Someone asked. Why would they care so much? Zerthax pulled up an image of Unity Point. The gardens where dozens of species gathered together. The conference rooms where people talked and laughed. The dining halls where food from 100 worlds was shared. Because this is how they think, Zerthax said quietly. They do not see other species as enemies or subjects. They see them as people to understand, as potential friends, as partners. This is not a trick. This is just who they are. The council chamber went silent. Back on Unity Point, Linda Morrison met with her team. Jake Sullivan reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The Valorian Council is getting nervous, Jake said. Our sources say they might break off negotiations soon. 6 months had passed since first contact. The Valorian High Council gathered in their grand chamber on the homeworld. The room was made of black crystal that absorbed light. It made everything look dark and serious. Hundreds of counselors sat in curved rows, all facing the center platform. High Commander Zerthax stood at the platform. Next to him stood Admiral Korth and Counselor Vrex. They were about to present their findings about humanity. Every counselor in the room looked worried. We have a problem, Zerthax began. His voice echoed in the chamber. The humans are not behaving like any species we have encountered before. A holographic display appeared above the platform. It showed Unity Point, the human space station. Then it showed dozens of smaller images. Humans talking with Valorians. Humans eating with Tellurians. Humans studying with the Kryn. Humans everywhere. Always learning. Always asking questions. In 6 months, they have made contact with every major species in our empire, Zerthax continued. Not through official channels, through cultural exchanges, through shared meals, through simple conversations. They have learned our languages, they have studied our histories. They have attended our ceremonies. So they are spies, someone shouted from the crowd. No, Admiral Korth said, stepping forward. That is what we thought at first too. But spies hide. Spies steal secrets. These humans do everything openly. They ask permission. They show respect. They are not stealing information. We are giving it to them willingly. Another hologram appeared. This one showed statistics, numbers, and graphs. 17 of our diplomats now consider themselves personal friends with human negotiators, Korth said. Not allies, friends. Real friends. 43 lower-level staff members from various species have regular social meetings with humans. 112 support personnel have attended cultural events hosted by humans. This is unacceptable, Vrex said. But even he sounded uncertain now. There is more, Zerthax said. Show them the report from the Tellurian delegation. A new document appeared. It was written by the head of the Tellurian diplomatic team. The Tellurians had been part of the Valorian Empire for 200 years. They were loyal, trustworthy. The document was a request. The Tellurians were asking the Council to consider making humanity a full partner in the Empire, not a conquered territory. They were asking for humanity to be given special status. The Council chamber erupted in angry voices. Councilors shouting over each other. Some demanding the Tellurians be punished. Others demanding the negotiations with humanity end immediately. Zerthax waited for the noise to die down. Finally, he raised his hand for silence. The Tellurians are not the only ones, he said quietly. We have similar requests from the Kryn, the Pathex, and even some of our own Valorian diplomats. They all say the same thing. Humanity is different. Humanity understands things we do not. Humanity could help the Empire in ways military force cannot. Help us how? Someone demanded. Zerthax looked tired. He had been fighting this realization for weeks, but he could not deny it anymore. They are better at making peace than we are, he said simply. We are excellent at war. We can conquer anyone. But keeping the peace afterward, building real unity, turning former enemies into loyal citizens, that takes skills we are still learning. And humanity has already mastered those skills. The chamber went silent. For 3,000 years, the Valorian Empire had prided itself on its strength, on its military superiority. Now their own High Commander was saying they needed help from a species that had not even left their own solar system a century ago. On Unity Point, Linda Morrison was having dinner with her core team. They sat in a simple dining room, eating Earth food. Pizza, which had become popular among many of the alien diplomats who tried it. "The council is meeting right now," Jake Sullivan said, checking his tablet. "Our contacts say it is not going well." "Define not going well," Peter Clark said, taking another slice of pizza. "Half of them want to break off negotiations immediately," Jake replied. "The other half want to conquer us right now and be done with it." Amy Chen laughed. "So we are making progress." 6 months ago, all of them wanted to conquer us. Linda smiled. She was calm, as always. "The council is afraid. They are realizing that we are changing their empire from the inside. That scares them. Fear is natural. We just need to help them see past the fear to the opportunity." "What if they decide fear wins?" Jake asked. "Then we adapt," Linda said. "But I do not think they will. We have made too many friends. We have shown too much value. Admiral Korth knows it. High Commander Zerthax knows it. Even the traditional counselors like Vrex are starting to see it." "How can you be so sure?" Jake asked. Linda put down her pizza and leaned back in her chair. "Because we did something no one else ever did. We studied them. Really studied them. Not just their military tactics or their technology. We studied their culture, their values, their history, and we found something important." "What?" Amy asked. "They are tired," Linda said simply. 3,000 years of conquest. 3,000 years of war. They are very good at it. But it exhausts them. Every new species they conquer creates new problems, new rebellions, new conflicts. They are the strongest military force in the galaxy, but they are stretched thin trying to keep the peace." Peter nodded. "And we offer them a different way." "Exactly," Linda said. "We offer them specialists in peace. People who can turn enemies into allies without a single shot being fired. People who can solve cultural conflicts, mediate disputes, and build genuine unity. That is what they need. Deep down, they know it." Jake looked at his tablet again. "The council meeting is ending. No decision yet. They are scheduling another session for tomorrow." "Good," Linda said. "The longer they talk about it, the more they will realize we are right." The next day, something unexpected happened. High Commander Zerthax requested a private meeting with Linda Morrison. No other diplomats. No advisors. Just the two of them. They met in a small room on Unity Point. It had a table, 2 chairs, and a window looking out at the stars. Nothing else. Zerthax sat down heavily. He looked tired. Linda poured him a glass of water from a pitcher on the table. He took it, surprised by the gesture. "You are changing my empire," Zerthax said. It was not an accusation, just a statement of fact. "Yes," Linda agreed. "We are. But we are not changing it into something new. We are helping it become what it always wanted to be." Zerthax drank the water. It was cool and clean, simple, like everything humans did. "Explain that," he said. Linda folded her hands on the table. "Your empire started as a response to chaos. Your species, the Valorians, were surrounded by hostile neighbors. You were attacked repeatedly. So you built a military. You learned to fight. You became the strongest force in the galaxy." "I know our history," Zerthax said. "But then something interesting happened," Linda continued. "You could have just destroyed everyone. You had the power. But you did not. Instead, you defeated your enemies and then helped them rebuild. You created a system where former enemies became partners. You built an empire based on mutual benefit, not just fear." "We did what was necessary to maintain order," Zerthax said. "No," Linda said gently. "You did what was right. You created something better than simple conquest. You created a system where hundreds of species work together, where technology is shared, where knowledge flows freely, where the weak are protected and the strong have purpose. That is remarkable. Zerthax was quiet for a long moment. But we still have conflicts. Rebellions. Species that join us but never really accept us. Because you are still using tools of war to solve problems of peace, Linda said. You are excellent soldiers. But being a good soldier does not automatically make you a good peacemaker. Those are different skills. And you have those skills, Zerthax said. We have spent 300 years developing them, Linda replied. We fought terrible wars on Earth. We nearly destroyed ourselves several times. But we learned. We learned how to bring enemies together. How to heal old wounds, how to build systems where everyone benefits. We are not as strong as you militarily. We never will be. But we have something you need. Quote, what do we need? Zerthax asked. Linda smiled. You need people who can help you stop fighting and start building. You need specialists in cultural integration. You need mediators who can solve conflicts without violence. You need teachers who can help your member species understand each other better. You have conquered the galaxy. Now you need to unite it. Really unite it. Zerthax stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see his warships. Powerful. Deadly. The most advanced military force ever created. If we accept your offer, he said slowly, if we make you partners instead of subjects, what do you want in return? We want what you want, Linda said. A stable galaxy. Peace. Prosperity. The chance to grow and learn. We want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. We want to help build something that lasts. No territorial demands, no resource rights, no special privileges? Linda shook her head. We want to be treated as equals. We want our culture respected. We want a voice in decisions that affect us. But we do not want to rule anyone. We just want to help. Zerthax turned to look at her. Why should I believe you? Because in 6 months, we have had hundreds of opportunities to lie, to cheat, to manipulate. Linda said, we have not taken any of them. We have been honest about who we are and what we want. We have shown respect for your culture. We have made genuine friends with your people. Not because we had to, because we wanted to. You are gambling everything on us being better than we appear, Zerthax said. No. Linda replied. We are gambling on you being exactly as good as you appear. We studied your history. We saw what you built. We know what you are capable of. We just want to help you reach that potential. Zerthax was silent for a long time. Finally, he nodded slowly. The final negotiation session began 3 days later. The main conference room on Unity Point had been arranged carefully. A large round table sat in the center. Around it were seats for 20 delegates, 10 Valorian, 10 human. The room had windows on all sides, showing the stars beyond. High Commander Zerthax led the Valorian delegation. With him came Admiral Korth, Counselor Vrex, and 7 other high-ranking officials. They all wore their formal military uniforms, dark armor that gleamed under the lights. They looked powerful and dangerous. Linda Morrison led the human delegation. She wore a simple blue suit. Next to her sat Peter Clark, Amy Chen, Jake Sullivan, and 6 other diplomats. They wore normal business clothes. No armor, no weapons. They looked like office workers, not warriors. The contrast was striking. On one side, warriors who had conquered hundreds of worlds. On the other side, diplomats who had conquered nothing but carried themselves with quiet confidence. Zerthax stood. The room went silent. Everyone knew this moment would decide the future of both species. We have studied your proposal, Zerthax began. His voice was formal and cold. The Valorian Empire has considered your request for partnership. We have reviewed the terms. We have consulted with our allies across the Empire. We have examined every aspect of what you offer. He paused. Linda sat perfectly still, her face calm. You asked to join our empire not as subjects, but as partners, Zerthax continued. You ask for equal status. You ask for your culture to be respected. You ask for a voice in our decisions. These are unusual demands. They are not demands, Linda said quietly. They are requests, hopes. We ask because we believe partnership serves us both better than conquest. Zerthax nodded slowly. You also offer something in return. You offer your skills in diplomacy, in cultural integration, in conflict resolution. You claim you can help us solve problems that military force cannot solve. We do not just claim it, Peter Clark said. We can prove it. We have prepared specific examples. Zerthax sat down. Show us. Jake activated the holographic display in the center of the table. A map of Valorian space appeared, showing all 417 member species. 17 locations were highlighted in red. These are current conflict zones within your empire, Jake explained. 17 locations where you face ongoing resistance, rebellion, or civil unrest. Some have been problems for decades. Some are new. All of them cost you resources and lives. We are aware of our problems, Counselor Vrex said sharply. We do not need you to list them for us. Of course, Amy Chen said respectfully. But we believe we can help solve them. We have analyzed each conflict. We have identified the root causes. And we have proposed solutions. Not military solutions, diplomatic ones. The display zoomed in on one planet. Helios Prime. It showed images of violence. Burning buildings. Armed rebels fighting Valorian soldiers. Helios Prime has been in rebellion for 15 years, Peter said. You have sent troops. You have tried negotiations. You have offered aid. Nothing has worked. The violence continues. And you think you can fix this? Admiral Korth asked. He sounded skeptical. We think we understand what the problem really is, Peter replied. Your reports call this a religious conflict. The rebels claim they are fighting for their ancient faith. Your forces believe you are fighting religious extremists. But that is not the real issue. A new image appeared. Maps of water distribution across Helios Prime. Charts showing resource allocation. Economic data. The rebellion started in the southern continent, Amy explained. That region has the lowest access to fresh water. For decades, water has been redirected to the north, where the planetary government is located. The southern population feels ignored and exploited. The religious rhetoric is just a way to unite people around their real grievance, which is resource inequality. Zerthax leaned forward, studying the data carefully. Fix the water distribution, Peter said simply. Invest in desalination plants in the south. Give the southern councils control over their own water resources. The rebellion ends within a year. You cannot know that, Vrex objected. We can, Linda said. Because we have seen this pattern before. On Earth. In our own history. Resource conflicts often hide behind cultural or religious language. Solve the resource problem, and the cultural conflict loses its energy. The display changed to another planet, Telluria, homeworld of the Tellurians. The Tellurian separatist movement, Jake said. They want independence from the Empire. They claim cultural oppression. They commit acts of sabotage and violence. You have been fighting them for 30 years. We have offered them everything, Korth said. Autonomy, representation, economic benefits. They refuse all of it, because you have never addressed the real wound, Amy said gently. When you conquered Telluria 200 years ago, the battle was brutal. Thousands died. Entire cities were destroyed. You won, and then you helped them rebuild. You have been generous since then. But you never acknowledged the harm that was done. You never apologized. The room went very quiet. Apologize? Vreek said. We were at war. War causes casualties. That is how it works. Yes, Linda agreed. But the Tellurians never got closure. Never got recognition that their suffering mattered. They joined the Empire. But the pain of conquest was never healed. It just got buried. And buried pain eventually erupts. What do you propose? Zerthax asked. A truth and reconciliation process, Peter said. similar to what we developed on Earth after our own conflicts. Create a commission. Let Tellurians tell their stories of the conquest. Let them express their pain publicly. Have Valorian officials listen. Really listen. Acknowledge what happened. Express regret for the suffering caused. Not weakness. Not surrender. Just honest recognition of pain. And this will stop the violence? Korth asked. Not immediately, Amy admitted. But it starts the healing. Combined with institutional reforms that give Tellurians more control over their own affairs, the separatist movement loses support. Within a decade, former separatists become your strongest advocates, because you showed them their pain mattered. You treated them with dignity. The display continued cycling through conflicts. Each one, the humans had analyzed. Each one, they had found the underlying cause. Each one, they proposed a solution that did not involve military force. The Valorian delegates watched in silence. Some looked skeptical, some looked thoughtful, but all of them were listening. Finally, the presentation ended. The holographic display shut off. Zerthax looked at Linda. You have studied us well. You have studied our problems well. But understanding problems is not the same as solving them. How do we know you can actually do what you claim? Linda smiled. Let us prove it. Choose one conflict. Anyone you want. Let us try our approach. Give us 6 months. If we fail, you can proceed with conquest as you planned. But if we succeed, you seriously consider our partnership proposal. The Valorian delegates looked at each other, whispered conversations in their own language, debates about risks and opportunities. Helios Prime, Zerthax finally said. If you can solve the Helios Prime rebellion in 6 months, we will consider your proposal seriously. Deal, Linda said. But understand this. Zerthax continued. If you fail, if your approach makes things worse, we proceed with immediate conquest of Helios Prime and of Earth. The threat hung in the air. Jake looked nervous. Peter remained calm. Amy showed no reaction. Linda nodded. We understand. 6 months. Helios Prime. We will solve it. Zerthax stood. Then we have an agreement. Limited. Temporary. But an agreement. Quote, after the Valorians left, Jake let out a long breath. Did we just bet the entire future of humanity on fixing a water problem? Not just a water problem, Peter corrected. A 15-year-old rebellion that the most powerful military force in the galaxy could not stop. And we have 6 months, Amy added. Linda looked at her team. Then we better get started. Jake, I need you to contact the Helios Prime government. Tell them we are coming. Peter, start assembling a team of engineers and mediators. Amy, you are on cultural liaison. Learn everything about Helios Prime culture. What are you going to do? Jake asked. Linda smiled. I am going to prove that talking is stronger than fighting, and that understanding people is more powerful than defeating them. We are going to show the Valorian Empire what humanity does best. She looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there was Helios Prime, a planet torn by violence, a people divided by anger and pain, a problem everyone thought was impossible to solve. But Linda had faith, not in weapons, not in force, but in the power of people to change when they feel heard, when they feel respected, when someone takes the time to understand them. 5 months and 23 days later, Linda Morrison stood in the central square of Meridian City, on Helios Prime. Around her, thousands of people gathered. Humans, Valorians, and locals from Helios Prime, all of them waiting. The square had been a battlefield just months ago. Burned buildings, broken streets, blood on the stones. Now it was clean, rebuilt. In the center stood a new structure, a water distribution facility. But it was more than that. It was a symbol. Jake Sullivan stood next to Linda, looking nervous. Are you sure they will come? They will come, Linda said calmly. And they did. From the south, a group of people walked into the square. These were the rebel leaders. The ones who had fought Valorian soldiers for 15 years. The ones who had burned buildings and attacked government facilities. They carried no weapons now, just uncertainty and hope. From the north, another group entered. Government officials from Helios Prime. Valorian military advisors. The people who had been fighting the rebels. They also carried no weapons, just caution and curiosity. Between them stood human mediators. Peter Clark, Amy Chen. Dozens of others who had spent 5 months on Helios Prime. Learning, listening, building trust. Linda stepped forward to a raised platform. A microphone carried her voice across the square. 5 months ago, we came to Helios Prime, she began. We came because High Commander Zerthax gave us a challenge. Stop the rebellion. Bring peace. Do it without military force. We had 6 months. Today, we show you what we have accomplished. She gestured to the water facility behind her. This facility processes seawater from the Southern Ocean. It produces fresh water for the entire southern continent. It is controlled by a council elected by southern communities. Not by the planetary government. Not by the Valorian Empire. By the people who use the water. Murmurs ran through the crowd. The rebel leaders looked at the facility with wide eyes. But this is not just about water, Linda continued. This is about respect. About giving people control over their own lives. About fixing the real problems instead of just fighting the symptoms. She turned to the rebel leaders. For 15 years, you fought because you felt ignored, exploited, powerless. You used religious language because it gave your movement unity and purpose. But the real issue was always about resources and representation. Then she turned to the government officials. And for 15 years, you tried to stop the rebellion with force. You sent soldiers and weapons. You built walls and checkpoints. But you never addressed why people were rebelling in the first place. Peter Clark stepped forward. Today, we propose a new agreement. The Southern Councils get permanent control over water resources in their region. They get guaranteed representation in the planetary government. They get investment in infrastructure and education. Amy Chen continued. In exchange, the rebel leaders publicly end the armed struggle. They commit to working within the political system. They help rebuild what was destroyed. They turn from fighters into builders. Silence filled the square. Everyone waited. The rebel leaders looked at each other. Whispered conversations. Years of fighting. Years of anger and pain. Could they really just stop? The lead rebel, an old man named Kale, stepped forward. He had been fighting for all 15 years. He had lost family to the conflict. He had scars across his face and arms. Why should we trust this? Kale asked. His voice was rough, tired. Why should we believe anything will change? Linda looked him in the eyes. Because we have already changed it. The water facility is built. The councils are elected. The contracts are signed. This is not a promise for the future. This is reality right now. Today, you can check every detail. You can inspect every agreement. We are not asking you to trust promises. We are asking you to accept what already exists. Kale stared at her. Then he turned to look at the water facility. He could see it. Real. Solid. Actually there. And if we say no? He asked quietly. Then the facility still operates, Linda said. The southern people still get clean water. The councils still have control. You saying no does not change that. But if you say yes, if you join the political process, you help shape what comes next. You become part of the solution instead of just fighting the problem. Another long silence. Finally, Kale nodded slowly. We accept, he said. The crowd erupted. Some people cheered. Some cried. Government officials looked shocked. Valorian soldiers looked confused. They had fought for 15 years, and it ended not with a final battle, but with a conversation and a water facility. High Commander Zerthax watched the entire event from a Valorian ship in orbit. Next to him stood Admiral Korth and Counselor Vrex. They had all watched the humans work for 5 months. They had been skeptical, certain it would fail, but it had not failed. The rebellion was over. Peacefully. Completely. And Helios Prime was already starting to heal. Impossible, Vrex whispered. 15 years we fought, thousands died, and they solved it in 5 months, with water pipes and conversations. Not impossible, Zerthak said quietly. We were just solving the wrong problem. We tried to stop the fighting. They fixed why people were fighting in the first place. Korth shook his head in amazement. What else could they fix? How many of our other problems are actually this simple? Zerthax turned away from the window. Prepare the council. We need to make a decision. 2 weeks later, the Valorian High Council met again. But this time was different. Representatives from all 417 member species attended. Not just Valorians. Everyone. The chamber was packed. Hundreds of delegates from across the Empire. Zerthax stood at the center platform. We gave humanity a test. Solve the Helios Prime Rebellion. They succeeded. Now we must honor our agreement and seriously consider their partnership proposal. He paused, looking around the chamber. But I propose we go further. I propose we not only accept humanity as partners. I propose we restructure how our empire operates. I propose we adopt their methods across all our territories. Shocked silence. Then voices. Arguments. Some supporting. Some opposing. The debate went on for hours. Finally, a vote was called. The chamber went silent. Each species voted. One by one. The results appeared on holographic displays. 403 species voted yes. Only 14 voted no. Humanity was accepted not just as members of the Empire, but as equal partners. More than that, the Empire agreed to change. To focus less on military conquest, and more on diplomatic integration. To invest in cultural understanding. To build institutions that solved problems before they became rebellions. 1 year after that vote, Linda Morrison stood on the observation deck of Unity Point. The station had grown. It was now 10 times larger. Thousands of students from hundreds of species trained there. They learned negotiation, cultural sensitivity, conflict resolution, mediation. Jake Sullivan joined her, carrying 2 cups of coffee like he had so many times before. The council approved 3 more academies, he said, 1 near Tellurian space, 1 in the Kryn sector, 1 by the Pathex homeworld. Linda took the coffee and smiled. Good. We need them. There is so much work to do. Did you ever think it would work? Jake asked. When we first met the Valorians, did you really believe we could change them? Linda thought about that. I believed they wanted to change. I believed that deep down, they knew military force alone was not enough. They just needed someone to show them a different way. Someone to believe in them. She looked out at the stars. Valorian warships still patrolled the Empire. The military was still strong. But now, there was something else too. Diplomats. Mediators. Teachers. People working to build understanding instead of just enforcing order. Peter Clark and Amy Chen walked onto the observation deck, laughing about something. They had just returned from Telluria, where the reconciliation process had been a complete success. Former separatists were now running for government positions, working within the system, building instead of destroying. The Tellurian delegation sent a gift, Amy said, showing Linda a small crystal sculpture. They said, it represents new beginnings. Linda held the sculpture carefully. It was beautiful, delicate, made with obvious care and thought. New beginnings, she repeated softly. That is exactly what this is. High Commander Zerthax appeared in the doorway. He visited Unity Point regularly now. Sometimes for official business. Sometimes just to talk. He and Linda had become genuine friends. Ambassador Morrison, he said formally. Then he smiled. Linda, do you have a moment? They walked together through the gardens of Unity Point. Plants from hundreds of worlds grew side by side. just like the species of the Empire now worked side by side. I wanted to thank you, Zerthax said, for what you have done. For what your people have done. We just helped you become what you already were, Linda replied. No, Zerthax said firmly. You changed us. You made us see ourselves differently. Made us want to be better. That is a kind of power we never understood. A power stronger than any weapon. It is not power, Linda said gently. It is just understanding. Respect. Caring about others. Anyone can do it. You are already doing it. Look at what the Empire has become in just 1 year. Zerthax nodded. 17 conflicts resolved peacefully. 8 species that were considering rebellion decided to join voluntarily instead. Crime rates down across the Empire. Economic cooperation increasing. All because we started listening instead of just commanding. You were always capable of this, Linda said. You just needed to believe in it. They stood in silence for a moment, looking out at the galaxy through the garden windows. My people feared your diplomats, Zerthax finally said. We thought you were coming to conquer us somehow. We were right to fear you. But not for the reasons we thought. Why should you have feared us? Linda asked. Zerthax smiled. Because you conquered something more fundamental than territory. You conquered our assumptions. Our beliefs about how power works. Our certainty that force was the only answer. You made us want to change. And wanting to change is more powerful than being forced to change. Linda smiled back. That is the secret. We never tried to defeat you. We tried to understand you. And once we understood you, we could help you see your own potential. Below them, in the gardens and halls of Unity Point, hundreds of species gathered. Learning. Talking. Laughing. Building friendships across cultures that had never spoken before. The Valorian Empire had ruled through military might for 3,000 years. Now it was learning to rule through something else. Through respect. Through understanding. Through genuine partnership, and it all started because humanity did something unexpected. They did not bring weapons or threats. They brought curiosity and compassion. They brought the patience to listen, and the courage to care. The galaxy had feared humanity's diplomats, feared what they might do, what power they might wield, and the diplomats had done exactly what the galaxy feared. They had changed everything. Not through force, but through something far more powerful. They had made people want to be better, and in doing so, they had changed the galaxy forever. Let us go change the galaxy, she said. Her team looked at her. Some showed doubt, some showed fear, but all of them showed determination. They had come this far. They would not back down now. The Valorian Empire had expected humanity to be like every other species. Weak, fearful, easy to conquer. Instead, they got people who saw them not as enemies but as partners. People who studied them not to defeat them but to understand them. People who believed that even a 3,000-year-old empire of warriors could change. And that belief was about to be tested on a rebellious planet on the edge of the galaxy. 6 months. 1 chance. The future of 2 species hanging in the balance. The real work was about to begin. I will present your proposal to the council, he said. But I cannot promise they will accept it. That is all we ask, Linda said. A fair chance to show what we can do. After Zerthax left, Jake came into the room. How did it go? He asked. Linda looked out the window at the stars. It went well. He is starting to see it. Starting to understand what we are offering. And if the council says no, Linda smiled, then we keep trying, because this is too important to give up on. We have a chance to change the entire galaxy. To show that there is a better way than endless conquest. We have to take that chance. Outside, the Valorian warships waited. Inside Unity Point, the future was being decided. Not through weapons or threats, but through understanding and hope. Linda nodded slowly. She had expected this. Then it is time for the next phase. Are you sure? Peter Clark asked. We have never tried this on such a large scale before. The Empire has conquered 417 species, Linda said. But they have never met a species that conquered something more important than territory. What is more important than territory? Amy Chen asked, though she already knew. Linda smiled. Hearts and minds. We do not need to defeat them in battle. We need to show them who they really are. We need to help them see their own potential. Outside, the stars burned cold and bright. Inside Unity Point, species from across the galaxy talked and laughed together. The Valorians had expected weapons and threats. Instead, they got something far more dangerous. They got people who actually cared about understanding them. And that changed everything. They have, Linda agreed. But they have also built things. They have created an empire that lasts. That takes more than just force. That takes understanding. They have that understanding, even if they do not use it well yet. Our job is to help them see what they already know. And if we fail? Jake asked quietly. Linda looked out the window at the Valorian warships floating in space. Huge. Powerful. Deadly. Then we fail, she said simply. But we will not fail. Because we have something they do not expect. We have studied them. We understand them. And we are very, very good at helping people become the best version of themselves. Outside, the stars shone cold and distant. The Valorian warships waited. Tomorrow, the real work would begin.